If you hold dual citizenship or you're thinking about getting a second passport, stop scrolling right now. What I'm about to tell you could save you from serious travel nightmares, unexpected financial penalties, and border control situations you definitely don't want to experience. 2026 has quietly introduced changes that are already affecting millions of dual citizens worldwide, and most people have no idea these new rules even exist. I'm John from Dream Visa Updates, and today I'm breaking down everything you need to know about the latest dual citizenship regulations. No legal jargon, no fear-mongering, just clear, honest information that could protect your freedom to travel and your peace of mind. Stay with me until the end, because what you don't know really can hurt you. Here's what keeps me up at night. Right now, there are dual citizens boarding planes with expired passports, filing taxes without reporting foreign accounts, and using the wrong documents at immigration. They have no idea they're creating problems that could follow them for years. And the worst part? Most of these issues are completely preventable. Let me be clear about something. This isn't about scaring you. This is about preparing you. The rules have changed, the systems are smarter, and countries are sharing more information than ever before. But here's the good news. Once you understand what's happening, you'll realize that staying safe is actually pretty straightforward. So let's start with the basics. What does dual citizenship actually mean? Simply put, you're legally recognized as a citizen of two countries at the same time. Maybe you were born in one country to parents from another. Maybe you married someone and gained citizenship through them. Maybe you naturalized after years of living abroad. Or maybe your child was born overseas and automatically became a citizen of two nations from day one. For millions of people, dual citizenship is an incredible blessing. It means easier travel, stronger family connections, cultural identity, and opportunities for work, education, and security across borders. And yes, in most situations, especially in the United States, dual citizenship is completely legal and accepted. But here's where things get interesting. Having two citizenships sometimes means juggling two sets of responsibilities. Two governments want certain information from you. Two countries have rules about passports, travel records, taxes, and reporting. And as technology advances and countries share more data, the systems tracking travel, identity, and financial transparency have become incredibly connected. That's exactly why these 2026 updates matter. They're not designed to punish anyone. They're about security, fraud prevention, and financial transparency. But when systems get tighter, people who don't understand the rules can accidentally create massive problems for themselves. A missed form here, a passport mismatch there, a trip booked without checking validity dates, small details that turn into big headaches. Here's what you need to remember. Dual citizenship itself isn't the problem. Having more than one passport is perfectly legal in most cases. What matters is awareness, accuracy, and honesty. And if something feels confusing, you're not alone. Even highly educated people struggle with immigration rules. My job is to guide you through each update calmly and clearly, so you know exactly where to pay attention. Now let's talk about one of the biggest changes: reporting requirements. Over the last few years, governments worldwide, including the United States, have massively strengthened their systems for tracking financial transparency and identity reporting. This isn't specifically targeting immigrants or dual citizens. It's mainly about preventing fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and abuse of international financial systems. But when rules tighten, ordinary people get caught in the middle simply because they didn't know what needed to be reported. If you're a U.S. citizen, whether you live in Boston or Bangkok, the U.S. expects you to report your worldwide income. That means if you earn money in another country, have a bank account overseas, or hold investments outside the U.S., there are times when those must be disclosed to U.S. authorities, even if you're also paying taxes in that other country. Dual citizenship doesn't exempt you from these obligations. In some cases, it makes reporting slightly more complex. Now, the idea of reporting foreign accounts scares a lot of people. I get it. But let me tell you something important. Most people aren't being punished for having a bank account back home. The real issue happens when someone has accounts, assets, or business interests and doesn't report them when legally required. That's when delays, penalties, and stressful letters from authorities start arriving. Here's something you might not know. Data sharing agreements between countries have become incredibly strong. Financial institutions in many parts of the world now cooperate with the United States when they detect accounts owned by U.S. persons. Translation? It's getting harder and honestly pointless to try hiding things. What you need isn't fear. What you need is clarity. If you're unsure whether something needs to be reported, that doesn't make you a criminal. It means you need accurate information. Keep copies of financial statements, know where your money is, and stay honest when filling out forms. These simple steps protect you more than you realize. And remember, not everyone faces the same situation. Many dual citizens have simple financial lives and never run into problems. If you feel lost or confused, trust me, you're absolutely not alone. Now let's shift to something every dual citizen eventually experiences: travel, passports, and border rules. This is where misunderstandings happen constantly, yet the rule itself is actually quite simple. If you're a U.S. citizen, the United States requires you to enter and leave the country using your U.S. passport, period. Even if you hold citizenship in another country, even if you have a valid visa in that other passport, and even if you're carrying both passports in your hand, when you step up to U.S. immigration, you must present your U.S. passport. For many people, this feels weird at first. They ask me, John, why can't I just use my other passport? Here's the answer. The U.S. views you as a U.S. citizen first when you're entering the country. Using another passport creates confusion, unnecessary questioning, and delays, because from the U.S. perspective, you're trying to enter as a foreign visitor when you're actually not. At the same time, the other country where you hold citizenship often has the exact same expectation. Most countries prefer their citizens enter and exit using their national passport. So practically speaking, dual citizenship usually means using one passport when you leave one country and switching to the other passport when you arrive in the next. For example, imagine you're traveling between the U.S. and another country where you hold citizenship. You'd leave the U.S. with your U.S. passport, then present your other passport upon arrival in that country. On the return trip, you reverse it. This can feel confusing at first, but it's completely normal. Problems happen when a passport is expired, nearly expired, or contains a name that doesn't match other documents. Add new passport security features, biometric checks, and stronger verification systems, and you start understanding why travelers face more questions than before. None of this automatically means you're in trouble. Often it simply means systems are verifying identity more carefully. Here's another critical detail: passport validity rules. Many countries require your passport to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your intended stay. Airlines check this rule before boarding because they get fined if they fly someone who's later refused entry. So even if you think your passport still has a few months left, a gate agent or immigration officer might see it differently. My advice? Renew early. Always. It's safer than waiting until the last minute, especially if you hold two passports and switch between them while traveling. Staying calm, staying prepared, and planning ahead prevents most problems long before you ever reach the airport. Another area that's quietly changed involves security checks and biometric verification. Over the last few years, passports worldwide have started including more advanced security features, digital chips, biometric data, all designed to protect identity and prevent fraud. You've probably noticed new machines at airports scanning faces, fingerprints, or digital passport chips instead of relying only on manual stamping. For most travelers, these systems actually make travel safer and sometimes faster, but they also mean mismatched information becomes easier for authorities to notice. If your name is written differently on two passports, if your date of birth records don't match exactly, or if past travel entries don't appear consistent, the system flags you for extra questions. That doesn't automatically mean you did something wrong. Often, it simply means the system wants to verify that two records truly belong to the same person. Technology catches small details that older manual systems often ignored, and sometimes that feels intimidating when you're the person being questioned. In moments like that, the most important thing is calm honesty. Answer clearly, show your documents, explain briefly why something looks different. Maybe your name changed after marriage. Maybe one country formats names differently. Maybe you renewed your passport recently and the number changed. These are normal human situations. Extra screening doesn't automatically mean trouble is coming. It usually means identity is being checked more carefully because new systems rely on accuracy. And here's something else. Countries are increasingly sharing travel information with each other. Border control may already see where you traveled last month or which passport you used on your previous trip. That's not meant to punish you. It's part of global security and fraud prevention. Awareness simply helps you avoid panic when something takes a few extra minutes. If an officer asks questions, it isn't a personal attack. It's part of their process. Breathe, stay respectful, and let the system do what it needs to do. Now let's quietly shift to a topic that worries some dual citizens: military service obligations. Not every country requires it, but some nations still have compulsory service for their citizens, including dual nationals who may not even live there full time. If you hold citizenship in a country with mandatory conscription laws, you could technically be expected to follow those rules when you visit or reside there, especially if you're of eligible age. For many families, this comes as a total surprise. Someone may have grown up in another country, barely speak the language, and suddenly discover they're still considered eligible for service. It feels frightening and confusing, especially when those obligations conflict with work, education, or family life in the United States. From the U.S. perspective, dual citizenship alone doesn't automatically create a problem. However, serving in certain positions or engaging with a foreign military under specific circumstances can complicate things, particularly if there's political tension or security risk involved. These cases are rare but serious enough to deserve awareness. If your other country has military requirements, the best approach is not to panic and not to ignore it either. Contact the embassy or consulate of that country and ask clear questions about your status. Many nations have exemptions, deferments, waivers, or special rules for citizens who primarily live abroad. And if you feel uncertain about whether fulfilling or refusing those obligations could affect your situation in the United States, speak with a qualified professional. They can give you reassurance before you act. The most important message: don't assume, don't fear, and don't make rushed decisions. Seek information, understand your position, and move carefully. Another area that raises questions is voting and political involvement. A lot of people worry that casting a vote in their other country might somehow threaten their status in the United States. In most cases, it doesn't. As a U.S. citizen, you have the right to vote in U.S. elections whether you live inside the country or abroad, and many other countries also allow their citizens to vote while living overseas, so it's possible for dual citizens to legally vote in both systems as long as each vote follows that country's laws. Where complications sometimes appear isn't with voting itself, but with deeper political participation. Running for office in a foreign government, accepting certain government roles, or participating in sensitive political positions can create questions about loyalty, obligations, or intent. These situations are rare and usually evaluated on a case-by-case basis, but they're worth understanding before stepping into something serious. If you ever find yourself unsure, pause before acting, gather information, and ask questions rather than assuming everything is automatically okay. Honesty is always your safest path. When forms ask whether you hold another citizenship or whether you've participated in any government roles, answer truthfully. Problems usually arise not because someone voted, but because something important wasn't disclosed when asked. Staying transparent prevents issues before they begin. Now let's talk about children, because dual citizenship often begins at birth, and parents sometimes don't realize how important early documentation is. When a child is born outside the United States to a U.S. citizen parent, that child may still be eligible for U.S. citizenship from birth, depending on the parent's history and circumstances. At the same time, many countries automatically grant citizenship to any child born on their soil. That means a baby can become a dual citizen from day one without anyone planning it. The challenge appears later when the child grows up and needs proof. If parents never reported the birth to the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate, or never obtained formal records confirming citizenship, that child may face unexpected barriers when applying for a U.S. passport, enrolling in school, traveling, or proving identity. It can feel heartbreaking when a young adult discovers their documentation was never completed properly, not because of wrongdoing, but because their parents didn't know the process existed. The good news? Awareness helps. Report births abroad, keep copies of important records, apply for passports early, and make sure names and dates match across documents. These steps protect children from stress later. And even if the paperwork wasn't completed at birth, it doesn't always mean everything is lost. There may still be paths to correct, confirm, or claim status with the right guidance and patience. The key message is simple: document early, double-check details, and keep everything in one safe place. Children depend on adults to protect their future identity. Taking the time now prevents confusion, complicated interviews, and emotional frustration later in life. Some people with dual citizenship eventually wonder whether they should give up one of their nationalities, usually because they feel overwhelmed by rules, paperwork, or taxes. Renouncing citizenship sounds simple when you hear it discussed online, but in reality it's one of the most serious and permanent decisions a person can make. Once you formally renounce a citizenship, you're not simply taking a break from it. You're closing a door that often cannot be reopened. You lose the automatic right to live, work, vote, and receive protections from that country. You may also lose the ability to pass citizenship to your children in the future. In some cases, people renounce first and only later realize how deeply it affects their sense of identity, family connections, or safety options during global crises. There are also practical steps most people don't realize exist: interviews, fees, paperwork, final tax filings, and sometimes an emotional process that feels heavier than expected. None of this means renunciation is always wrong. For a small number of people, it genuinely makes life simpler. But it should never be rushed, never done out of fear, and never decided based only on something heard in a video or read on social media. When decisions affect your entire life and your children's lives, it's wise to slow down, ask questions, and fully understand the long-term consequences before doing anything that cannot be undone. With all this information, it can feel like there are 1,000 rules moving at once. But the truth is, staying prepared usually comes down to a few simple habits. Keep your passports valid and avoid letting them get too close to expiration. Renew early, not late. Make sure names, dates of birth, and spelling are consistent across passports, birth records, and travel documents. Keep your immigration papers, tax records, and important certificates together in one safe place so they're easy to find when needed. If you have bank accounts or assets in another country, know where they are, keep statements, and don't ignore letters or notices. When something on a form confuses you, don't guess. Pause, research, or ask someone qualified. Keep a small record of your travel history, especially if you use different passports when entering different countries. That simple note can save you hours later if questions arise. And most importantly, remember that none of this is about being perfect. It's about being aware, honest, and organized. Immigration systems can feel intimidating, but preparation turns fear into confidence. You don't need to panic. You don't need to figure everything out overnight. You simply need to stay informed, move carefully, and take things one step at a time. Travel becomes even more interesting when dual citizens visit countries where they don't hold citizenship at all. In those situations, deciding which passport to use usually comes down to practicality. Many travelers choose the passport that offers the easiest entry, the fewest visa requirements, or shorter lines at immigration. For example, some passports allow visa-free entry to certain regions, while others require advance permits. The U.S. passport is powerful in many parts of the world, but there are still destinations where different passports can actually make travel smoother. What matters most is checking entry rules before booking flights, not at the airport gate. Each country sets its own conditions, and those rules can change. Some require online authorization before arrival. Others expect proof of return tickets, hotel reservations, or vaccination records. Dual citizens sometimes assume having two options guarantees flexibility, but it still requires planning. Always make sure the passport you plan to use has enough validity left, enough blank pages, and matches your ticket details. When immigration officers see confidence and consistency, travel becomes easier. When something doesn't line up, conversations become longer than expected, and that stress is completely avoidable with a little preparation. Now let's talk briefly about government employment and security clearances, because this is another area where dual citizenship sometimes brings extra scrutiny. Many people dream of working in public service, law enforcement, defense, research, or other sensitive roles in the United States. Holding dual citizenship doesn't automatically disqualify someone, but it can lead to deeper background checks. Authorities may look at your ties to the other country, relatives who live there, property you own, financial accounts, past travel patterns. The concern isn't punishment. It's simply about understanding whether there could be conflicting obligations or pressure from another government. Some positions, especially highly classified ones, may expect you to choose one citizenship over another. That decision can be deeply personal, emotional, and complicated. If this ever becomes part of your journey, it's important to slow down and think, not panic. Many dual citizens successfully work in government roles after clear explanations, transparency, and careful review. Honesty once again becomes the most powerful tool. Trying to hide another citizenship is what usually creates serious problems, not the citizenship itself. When you look at everything we've discussed, passports, reporting rules, travel requirements, documentation for children, security screenings, and all the what-if questions, it's completely natural to feel a little overwhelmed. Immigration journeys are rarely just paperwork. They carry hope, fear, sacrifice, family dreams, and sometimes years of waiting. Many people live between two cultures, two languages, two systems, and that can feel heavy at times. If you've ever sat awake at night wondering whether you filled something out correctly or whether a letter from immigration might change your future, I want you to know something important. You are not alone. Millions of people all over the world are navigating the same uncertainties, asking the same questions, and quietly carrying the same anxiety, and most of them, just like you, are simply trying to follow the rules, protect their families, and build stable lives. That's why staying informed matters so much. Information doesn't solve every problem, but it turns fear into preparation and confusion into clarity. When you hear about a new rule, you can pause, listen, and understand whether it applies to you rather than rushing into panic. When something feels unclear, you can ask for guidance instead of guessing. And when your journey feels tiring, you can remind yourself that progress with immigration is often slow, but it does move forward. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. You're doing your best inside systems that are complex even for professionals. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply stay calm, stay organized, and continue learning one step at a time. As we wrap up today, let's bring everything back to the core message. Dual citizenship is not a mistake. It's not a problem by itself. But 2026 brings stronger reporting expectations, more careful passport verification, and systems that now communicate with each other more than ever before. That means small details matter, renewing early matters, being honest matters, keeping documents organized matters, and making decisions slowly, thoughtfully, and with awareness protects you far more than fear ever will. If something you heard today applies to you, don't rush, don't assume, and don't panic. Simply note it, learn more, and move forward carefully. Immigration journeys can be stressful, complicated, and emotional, but they're also journeys of courage and resilience. Staying informed is one of the best ways to protect your freedom to travel, your ability to plan, and your peace of mind. If today's update helped you feel clearer or calmer, I'm truly glad, and if you think this information could help someone else, please share this video with them. If you want steady, reliable updates on U.S. immigration news, visa changes, and citizenship guidance, make sure you subscribe to Dream Visa Updates. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update that could protect your future. And if you have a question, an experience, or a situation you're unsure about, drop it in the comments below. Your story might help someone else realize they're not alone. Thank you for being here with me today, for trusting me with your time, and for staying informed about something so important to your life and your future. I'm John from Dream Visa Updates, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue walking through this journey together step by step.